Nmixx has once again let me down with the release of their newest album, FE3O4 Stick Out. Now, to be honest, I had big expectations going into it because their previous album, FE3O4 Break, was actually quite enjoyable. It's not my favorite album of the year, but it had some moments that really stood out and showcased all the qualities and talents of the members. FE3O4 Stick Out, on the other hand, does everything that the previous album did, but much, much worse. Now, before we get into this, review, I want to preface it by saying that I don't have anything against Nmixx. I think they're all really talented. They're probably one of the best live performers in the fourth generation. And on top of that, I think the members are very entertaining. If you've seen the Hey One series that she's doing with Workdoll, it is some of the best content out there. And all the members radiate this really fun personality, so they are not necessarily the issue here. But at the end of the day, what I care about the most is the music, and unfortunately, we have to be very critical when it comes to that. I'm going to try to be as objective as possible, but of course, all of this is still going to be very opinionated, and I want to make that clear, that if you did like this album, and if you did enjoy the songs on here, that's great. I'm not trying to convince you not to like this. I'm just simply trying to give you my perspective on how I feel Nmixx is as a group and what this album really did wrong, in my opinion. Now, before we get into my thoughts, I want to first look at what the community is saying about this album and see if I disagree or agree with the general consensus. Alright, we're gonna start out with this review. It is a 73 rated review, and they say, Stick Out is a respectable, albeit slightly disappointing follow-up and sequel, if that is indeed the intention of keeping the prefix, from their last project, Break. We see the girls on a variety of new genres here, though not all of them work in their favor. With a 3-track run of Red Light Sign But We Go to Moving On, feeling like the only tracks here that allow them to fully embrace their strengths. Would have added Love Is Lonely if it wasn't so sparsely arranged. Like this review mentioned, Stick Out is supposed to be the sequel or follow-up to FE3O4 Break. And in doing so, the songs on this project sound very, very similar to stuff that we find on Break, but somehow worse. And you can see this specifically with the title track. See That, which is the title track of Stick Out, starts out in a very similar way that Dash did on the last album, where you have this hip-hop instrumental. It's almost like an old school hip-hop beat, and the vocals and the raps are very punchy. The instrumental is dark, it's moody. I was really enjoying the song up until halfway into it, where you get the classic Nmixx beat switch, and all of a sudden this hip-hop beat, this really dark song, becomes a uplifting rock song, and everybody's smiling in the music video and it looks like they're having a good time, and then boom, switches right back into that hip-hop beat, and it's like what happened? What is going on here? I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Listen, I know that this is what Nmixx is known for. I know that the mix pop thing is the reason why they even exist in the first place, but I've talked about it in the past and I've complained about it in the past, but I don't know why they keep doing it. The beat switch, it's not working for me, man. I have a very hard time connecting to the song and enjoying the song when you give me something that sounds one way and then you switch it up for 30 seconds into a completely different song and then bring me back. It's so overwhelming, and I just don't understand, man. I want to love Nmixx because they are very experimental and I love experimental stuff, but it's just not working for me. Maybe some of you guys can give me insight into why you like the Nmixx title tracks and why you like the beat switches that they do in their songs, but for me, it's always been something that I've struggled to enjoy, and I think this is my least favorite usage of mixed pop in any K-pop song ever. And it's a little bit disappointing because Dash also did this exact same thing, but they performed it and executed it so much better that it didn't really feel that abrupt. In fact, the beat switch almost functioned like a bridge in the song, but with See That, it's just kind of just jammed right into the middle without any reason whatsoever, and they move on from it so quickly that it almost feels useless. And I hate to say that, but that's just how it feels. Alright, let's look at another review, this time a 69... Nice. Anyways, alright, let's look at another review. This time it's a 69 rated review, and they say, I want to love Nmixx. They have amazing vocals and some genuinely great songs, but I can never fully connect with this group's music. Their first EP was largely forgettable and at times annoying, and while their second EP was a huge improvement with some genuinely great moments, it lacked any staying power for me. I can respect what Nmixx is doing a lot of the time, but I just find that other groups doing similar things are more appealing. And with them joints on production giving me Tank flashbacks, the lead up to this release had me more worried than ever. I share the same kind of worry with them joints as a producer, because I feel like I know a lot of people love him. Every time they hear the incoming, everybody gets excited. They think it's going to be one of the most intense, groundbreaking songs of all time. But I know them joints. Not personally, obviously, but I have heard a lot of the music that he's produced over the course of his career. In fact, I've heard a lot of the stuff that he's produced outside of K-pop. He has worked with a lot of big artists because he's mainly seen as a hip-hop producer. He's worked with artists like Kanye West. And in fact, Dem Joints is credited as a producer on most of the songs that appear on Kanye's Donda album. So trust me when I tell you that Dem Joints is one of the most inconsistent producers of all time. Because one day he might give you Sticker by NCT. Another day he might give you Tank by Nmixx. And then he could put out something like Supernova, which is one of the best songs of this year. This guy, you never know what you're gonna get with him. And unfortunately, he also produced a song on this album. Sika might be my favorite song on the album, and I know that might be kind of like a not common opinion, but I like it because it's so different from anything that Nmixx has ever done. Sika is heavily influenced by Project Pat, which is a rapper that has been putting out music for many, many years, and a lot of people find him to be extremely influential, partly because of the way that he flows. He has a very unique way of pronouncing and elongating the ends of rhymes and the ends of words. And I'm going to show you examples of that so you see exactly what I'm talking about. You know how in Sika, Nmixx like drags out the Sika and all the other rhymes kind of get dragged out as well? Well, guess what? That's Project Pat. And if you want to see a very famous example of him doing this, let me show you the song Knife Talk featuring 21 Savage, Project Pat, and Drake. Let me show you a more recent example of Project Pat influencing other artists. This time I'm going to show you Hanemankind's Big Dogs. This song was pretty viral like about a month ago. It was huge because of the way that it sounded so similar to Project Pat, and it showed a lot of homage to other artists of that time. And you'll also recognize another line that Nmixx also uses.
Backstepper, go and get it, we're not chaser. Go get her, you already know Sicko.
I would imagine that Dem Joints is probably responsible for this. He's, again, a hip-hop producer, but he's also really well known for sampling and interpolating a lot of older music and making it something completely new. So chances are that this was probably his idea and it just happened to turn into an Nmixx song. But either way, this is my favorite song on the entire album. Alright, let's move on to another review. This time it's a 60 rated review. And in reference to the songs Red Light Sign But We Go and Beat Beat, this review says this. Both of these tracks suffer from the same type of identity crisis. The weird combination of darker sounds in very bright electropop choruses is never fully resolved and in turn feels unwarranted. Perhaps the transition would feel less jarring if the EP had not opened up with two moody tracks, Cohesion is nowhere to be found at this point in the EP, and Moving On is a cheesy teen rock song, takes it apart even further. I think the same kind of problems that I had with aespa's Armageddon album are present in this album as well. And that's the lack of cohesion. It's very important for the listener to feel like you're being given a project that was well thought out. But it seems more likely that the company's just like throwing a bunch of things together and seeing what sticks. All right, let's look at a positive review. This is a 90 rated review, and they say, overall, this project displays that Nmixx is content with not trying to change the way that their song structure works, but molded to their very special style, taking some of the common sonic concepts you see in K-pop and proving that there is much more to be done with them if you try. Now, I disagree with this review 100% because this individual sees their unwillingness to change as a strength, but I actually see that as a weakness because the song structure is becoming way too predictable. Every time you step into an Nmixx title track, you know it's gonna have a beat switch. And while I think that there have been examples where that has worked, like in Dash, I also don't think doing it again and again and again is going to benefit this group that well. I think what's happening is that Nmixx is struggling on whether they should abandon mixed pop or continue doing it altogether. And you see that in this album very clearly, with the title track being mixed pop, but the B-sides being nothing like that at all. I think what it really comes down to is commitment. If you want to be dark and edgy and moody, then go all in on that. But if you want to be a little bit more lighthearted and you want to have fun and you want to make ballads like Moving On or Love Is Lonely, then do that. But don't try to do all of it at once, right? You cannot have your cake and eat it too. Pick one, do that for one album, and then if you want to do something else on the next album, that's fine. But commitment and cohesion are the most important things for the success of a project, and Nmixx has failed at that every single step of the way. You have two really great rappers in Jiwoo and Kyujin, and you also have two of the best vocalists in the entire fourth generation with Lily and Haewon. Do something with it. They have so much potential. They are, again, some of the best live performers in the entire industry right now. They deserve better. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this album. I do apologize for being so critical. I feel like that's been the case for a lot of my recent videos, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm the problem. You know, maybe Nmixx is so far ahead of its time that I just don't understand it. So maybe you guys can help me understand, you know? It could just be me being too serious and trying to be too objective about the music when I should just sit back and enjoy it. That could be the case, right? But regardless, yeah, it's an interesting topic, so let me know your thoughts. And with that being said, take care, and I will see you guys next time.